It has been a while since Rio has been played at the Arias. That's for you, Pete. Anyway, I just want to say what a thrill it is for me to be here tonight, and particularly my job here, which is to induct the Divinyls into the Hall of Fame. As we all know, the beginning of the 80s was the beginning of a new wave of success for Australian music, and there were a handful of acts that just were doing amazing things all around the world. The Divinyls, the innovative Divinyls, a Sydney five-piece band, was one of those that was doing exactly that. I'll never forget the first time I saw the Divinyls led by the charismatic Chrissy Amphlett. And charismatic was probably not the word that was coming to mind when I was 15. Sorry, Chrissy, if you're listening. I was about 14, 15 when I first saw you in that St. Trinian's outfit, and seeing as I'm working with you every night, I probably won't go into exactly what was going through my mind, but she and the rest of the Divinyls, it was fair to say, were confrontational, and they were mesmerising, like all good rock and roll should be. Chrissy Amphlett revealed her magic as she waved her provocative wand, pushing and prodding her way through a essentially male-dominated music industry. She and her partner and guitarist-songwriter Mark McEntee provided a visual, a musical, and a very personal, explosive cocktail, which was laid bare for all to see. With a rock-steady rhythm section of Rick Grossman and Richard Harvey and the keyboard of Bjarne Olien, the Divinyls carved their way into our consciousness. Along the way, long-term friendships were formed, ripped apart, and reconciled again. Short-term friendships fell apart at the seams, and some are still reconciling. But at the heart of the Divinyls was the bond, the belief in their quirky, unique take on rock music. They were the spirit of rock and roll, and they were the real deal. And if you need a little reminder of just how dynamic the Divinyls were, this is the Divinyls.
It took Divinyls 3 little words to captivate the entire world. In 1991, Divinyls were top of the pops everywhere. I Touch Myself was one of the year's biggest hits. It was a crowning moment in one of Oz Rock's most epic journeys. A journey that began almost a decade earlier when Christina Amphlett met Mark McEntee. Instantly, this gang of two knew their destiny was to become one of the biggest bands on the planet.
What I liked about Mark was that he was wanting to do something, and he was very eager.
Mark shared Chrissy's vision of a rock and roll future.
The first time that I heard Chrissy's voice, I just thought it was great.
And from the first time Chrissy and Mark wrote music together, it was magic. Boys in Town immediately splashed Divinyls all over radio and Countdown and straight onto the national top 10. Divinyls were by now a fully fledged outfit. With Chrissy up front in her schoolgirl uniform and trademark pout, she was sexy and scary. The impact was immediate, unforgettable. Australian music had never seen anything like her.
It's not something that I sit down and contrive. I just get out there and do what I do.
They toured the pubs and clubs across Australia, from inner-city dives to mining town community halls, 6 nights a week. The soundtrack to the film Monkey Grip became Divinyls' first major release. And in a radical move for the time, manager Vince Lovegrove secured Divinyls an international recording deal, direct with the US-based Chrysalis Records. Their 1983 debut album was the critically acclaimed, raw and edgy Desperate. Americans too had never seen or heard anything quite like Chrissy Amphlett, and the Divinyls quickly built a solid following on the US college circuit.
You have to be good live. You work hard. You go through a whole process.
In the years to come, Divinyls toured intensely, delivering a succession of timeless hits and classic albums. Their success was driven by one of the most volatile relationships in rock and roll.
We go through different sorts of phases.
What's the phase at the moment?
pretty well a non-speaking phase.
In late 1990, Divinyls had a new look and the most famous ode to self-love ever penned.
And then the I Touch Myself phase came, and everybody forgot anything else, and I became this sexual person.
The self-titled Divinyls album was their watershed. It found them at the top of the charts and the name on everyone's lips around the world. Chrissy and Mark changed the boundaries of Australian rock and roll. In particular, the perception of women in rock.
I see now that individuality of women is expected, and it is accepted a lot more than when I was around.
They were one of our most dynamic live acts ever, and the Divinyls music ended up touching us all.